Hello, welcome back. Matthew here. Lionface. Lionface, Matthew. Matthew's more formal. Matthew here. We are round 16, Nations Cup. Oceania top split. This was the first room of the night. And as you can see, qualified 6th. We got Adam, who took up pole with a 16-1. Was it 15-1? 16-1. Followed by Holland, Schnick, Noble, McCosy and myself for the top 6. I knew this was going to be a procession. On the lead up to this race, like a few weeks ago when I was looking at the upcoming races, I thought this would be great fun. There's slippy slidey road cars around Tsukuba. It's going to be mistakes, it's going to be on edge, and it's going to be a lot of fun to drive. Turns out with a BOP and these settings or whatever it is, then they're very easy to drive. You're not on a knife edge. You can make mistakes and get away with them. So it made the race not as interesting as it could have been. We had some great races around Tsukuba circuit with other cars. I think there was the BMW E3. Oh, I'm just making stuff up now. They had a street race with the 80s BMW on a daily race, and that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun to drive. And you're on a knife edge, and it rewarded being really precise with it. And mistakes were costly, but here you can see I noticed early on Schnick and Noble were going wide into turn 1 and sliding their cars. So and they'd still retain their positions just because of how the cars are, and you can make a mistake like that. In a Group 3 or Group 4 car doing that, it would cost you a tenth or two. It would cost you position when, say, McCosy's so close behind. But in this setting, these cars, you could get away with it. I did know tyre wear did eventually affect these cars. So from about lap 7 or 8 onwards, if you hadn't treated your tyres that well, then you were going to suffer later on. You can see Nick even trying to get a bit of an undercut, take a late apex and drive out of the corner. And the difference in speed is just so small, he cannot pull up beside or pull ahead. So very difficult to overtake without a big dive into one of the slow corners. So my thoughts going into this was save the tyres, treat the car nice, save the tyres. To have tyres at the end and have a more balanced lap performance or speed across the entire race. Where Noble and Schnick were, because they were sliding, they were wearing their tyres a bit harder, and they were going to run out nearer the end. Not necessarily run out, you're only going to lose a tenth or two, so it's not a lot. But in these cars and around Tsukuba, a tenth or two is enough, and you're going to have enough of a difference between drivers to be able to then possibly make a move and get past. So jumping forward to the end of lap 4, coming into lap 5, McCosy had been harassing Noble the entire time, and I was just hanging on, mostly because Noble was holding him up a bit. But McCosy finally gets up beside him and gets past, going into turn 1. And that was quite a nice clean move. I guess it was telegraphed quite early that he was going to do it, and Noble gave him the room and let him past. He was compromised a little bit coming off there. And I had a small run, so because I had enough of a run, not even a run, was it? I was gaining on him by milliseconds. And I watched him going into that corner and thought, if he doesn't defend the inside, I'm going to send up the inside. Of course, when you go and dive somebody like that, the victim gets very annoyed, which is fair enough too. And so he still had the outside, so he tried to bump me through that right-hander. And I knew if I was on the outside for the right-hander, I'd be the inside for the next two and gain that position, because it's so much shorter through those double left-handers. But because of the way the circuit is, even if you don't think a driver's going to go for it, you do have to defend the inside line, otherwise somebody's going to take it from you. So I'm just going to watch McCosy's move again. So Noble gets a big wiggle and the long right-hander. McCosy's not even gaining that much at this stage. So Art Noble kind of let him by then. He could have easily moved in front of him, prevent him from taking that spot. So because he was compromised, I do get a small run. It's very minuscule, but I was gaining on him. If he didn't defend the inside, I went for it. So he didn't defend, I went for it. I was going slow enough to pull up on the apex anyway, even without the bump. But because he didn't defend, he left a gap, I went for it. He got on the outside, tapped me a bit wide, and that was fine. I understand that. You feel so dumb when you get dived on like that and lose a position. And I've had that feeling. I bet he felt that just then as well. It's a suck feeling, but it is kind of the way you've got to battle around Suzuka and overtake cars. And not a fan of it, but it's just how it is. And because it wasn't for any serious points, I mean, I think the leader, first place, was getting 2,010 points or something to that effect. Second place was getting 1,880. Like, it wasn't even 900 points for second place. It's just a pointless race. Like, not a pointless race, but there's no points on offer. It's going to move anybody meaningfully up the field or up the leaderboard positions. So here we are heading into lap 12. Last 2 laps of the race, I've slowly caught Schnick. His tyres were burning away. If I jump up to him, you see his front left is really poor. Even though I was a little bit better than Mikozi's, but Mikozi was getting a bit more speed out of it than I was. So I was just had in my mind 2 laps to go. There's got to be a place to overtake Schnick. He's burning his tyres because I'd noticed he was sliding into a lot of corners early on. So I knew his tyres were going to be in a worse condition than mine, and I was going a little bit faster than him. Small little tap in there, just trying to concentrate on getting a good run out of these corners. I lifted off a bit earlier here to get on the power earlier. Schnick goes wide with his front left being a bit worn. Has a wiggle. I think I'm going to go at the inside. I don't actually get that much for a run on him, so I jump to the inside when he doesn't actually defend it and send it down the inside. Only the tiniest bit wide on the apex, but pretty solid move by me. I was pretty happy with that one. It was a bit cleaner and better than the attack on Noble earlier on. And he was once again sliding into there. Kind of turns into me. Could have given me a little bit more space, but I certainly didn't push him out of the way for that one. If I jump on board with him, you just see him go a little bit wide, still turning on the grass, so he gets a bit of a wiggle on. I thought he was going to defend the inside from here, and I was going to try to go around the outside, but he takes the left-hand lane. I go and dive him. You can see in the rear view I was nearly up beside him, or I was up beside him before he committed to turning in. So it wasn't like he was already committed to the corner and I go and dive on the apex. And that's not as clean, but fairly clean move to take that position away from Schnick. Once again, not something I do in a Group 3 or a Group 4 car, but these road cars around Tsukuba, it's the way you kind of have to attack. But that's it. On to the last lap now. I'm a second behind Mikozi at the start of it, and Mikozi's 3 or 4 seconds behind first and second. So Mikozi just had some fun. He ends up drifting the last few corners. Myself, I can't drift for the life of me, so I just kept it clean. Didn't want to give away any positions, obviously, the 2 that I gained. And I was pretty happy with my performance, even though at the end of the day the points on offer weren't worth anything for, I don't think, anybody really in this race, unless somebody had a real surprise victory who wouldn't normally be right up the top of a top split race. But a bit of fun. It was kind of nice not having any pressure on this race, any pressure to perform and take a win or take, second or third place. So I did enjoy myself and enjoyed the small battles I had with Noble and Schnick. But yeah, onwards and upwards onto Blue Moon Speedway and the Red Bull Junior this week. So we will see you on Wednesday. I'll be streaming it on Twitch. Otherwise, I'll do another review. It's going to be an interesting one. Until then, catch you later.